Hello everybody, welcome to this video in which I will talk a little bit about how to make a correct fist for striking, some of the myths that exist, some of the truths, but also some of the in-between stuff that is a little bit more nuanced. So take a look at this 1 minute video first, and then I will explain the details. So what do we have here? This is an example of how I was taught to make a fist when I started my Kung Fu training. So I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see it all the way up here a little bit better. So start with your fingers together, then you will fold them as tightly as you can, pretty much digging your nails into the pads of the inside of your hand. And then you fold those shut as well, and you keep that as tight as you possibly can. I stick the thumb out just to show you, obviously you don't have to, but the last part is that you then flex your thumb all the way next to the first two fingers. That is how my teacher showed us the traditional fist, and the idea was that it pretty much turned that fist into a very hard weapon that you can then use to strike whatever you want to strike. So I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the rest of the video. And this is just me showing you how to strike. Now the bag is about, I think about 160 pounds, something along those lines. So you can see that I'm not putting all my power in there that I have. This is just a video I made after I worked out. I wanted to share it with you guys so you can see what it's like. So the bag is going to bounce a little bit on impact. So you see that I am affecting it. Could hit harder. So this one here I wanted to point out that I kept to a vertical fist first, and then this next one here is a horizontal fist. So you can see that I am landing it here with, hold on, I'll see if I can zoom in a little bit. So you can see it a little bit better here. So this is just the vertical fist with thumb sideways. Either or, it works. So you can do both, and I'll keep the video going. So strike a couple of times, and in many arts, this is how they teach you how to punch with a fist, how you make a fist. And it works, nothing wrong with that. Now this here is a variation I learned from my Kung Tao teacher, the late Bob Orlando, and he would use a more hollow fist. So you would flex the fingers, but completely straight with the bottom part of your fingers. So when you zoom in, you see that from here, I will not, and I'll draw on the screen a little bit, you wouldn't flex your fingers here at the beginning of the joints, but you would flex them, and I will show the next part, so that the bottom part of your fingers is pretty much straight. So you're missing kind of one of the articulations of the fingers, and you're keeping them straight. And then you would put the thumb basically on top of it. There's variations, but this is how he liked to show it. So this is a hollow fist, so that means that there's a space inside the thumb and the fingers. So it's relatively hollow. I'm going to pull this down so you can see it better. There's also a flat part to it that can also be used for striking, and that is this part here. For certain inward strikes, this can be used as well. So Bob used this for many reasons. But I wanted to show it to you because a lot of people say, well, there's no way that you can actually strike hard with that kind of hand configuration. Okay, let's see what happens. I'm going to hit it with about the same power as I did before, and you see it's working just fine. There's no problem. There's no issue, and I'm going to do another thing just to show the myth about that as well. So one of the things is also that you need to have perfect alignment between wrist and fist, and I'll zoom in so you can see it better. Okay, let's test that. So what you can see here is that I break that alignment. So I've got an angle upwards in my forearm, and I've got an angle straight towards the back in my fist. So that means that this isn't supposed to work. This is supposed to break the line between both and mess up my punch. Well, let's rewind a little bit, and you can see what that looks like when I do the punch. I'll go at half speed, and you see it lands just fine. So there's not really a problem here landing that punch. It still delivers the payload into the target. So there's no real issue with that as well. Now there are limitations to that, obviously, which I won't go into the video here, but just to show you that a lot of the things that are said about how to make a fist aren't necessarily 100% accurate, or they need to be more nuanced. Now, would I say that you always have to hit with your fist and wrist at a different angle? No, of course not. Depends on the type of impact, type of technique, and a host of other factors. But this is just to show you that it is possible. Is it a good idea for you? Well, maybe, maybe not. Again, depends on a truckload of other factors. So here you see me using that a couple of times. And then I'm going to show you, and this is just a joke that I'm making. So I'm calling this the Shaka fist, the Aloha fist, or the Hawaiian fist, no matter how you want to call it. So this is just to show you that you can strike in a totally silly manner, and it can still work. Now, again, I am not saying that you should punch like this. I'm not saying that at all. The whole point is that this isn't supposed to work. So I've got my thumb sticking out. I have my little pinky finger sticking out here. I've got 3 middle fingers here that are straight and pulled inward. And that's all I have to stabilize my fist. So again, a lot of people, when you believe everything they say, well, you know, there's no way. You have to make a full fist. You have to clench your fist. You have to make it rock hard, blah, 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 blah. This isn't supposed to work. Okay, so let's put that to the test. If I have this really badly made fist, then I should have a lot of problems just landing a decent punch. I should mess up my fist and mess up my wrist and knuckles and everything. But what do you know? This works anyway. Isn't that something? Now, I'm just using it as an example of how you can do it with the same type of punch I did before. So all the 3 variations of, well, no, the 2 variations, and then this nonsense variation, they all work with the same type of punches as I did before. So it lands. You can see this is supposed to be all the way wrong. My thumb is sticking out, and I've got wrong angles and everything. It's not supposed to work, but the bag moves just as well as when I hit it with the other fists. And then a final point that I wanted to make is that because a lot of people, well, you're not really hitting hard and you're doing traditional stuff and blah, blah, blah. Okay, how about the double nonsense Aloha fist or Hawaiian fist or Shaka fist or however you want to call it? So I'm going to keep my hands like that the entire time that I'm using my striking on the bag. And I will start from a boxing perspective. So this is just me throwing as if I'm hitting the heavy bag like a boxer. See what happens. Well, works okay. And my hands were fine. So I can still type. I made this video yesterday. I can still type. Everything's fine. I wasn't hurt at all. There were no problems. And you can see that my punches landed with a decent amount of power. Even if I go away from the more traditional type of striking, you can see that if, and I'll rewind a little bit more so you can see it better. I'll go at half speed. Even if I have this really silly hand configuration, a way of using a fist, of making a fist that shouldn't work, I can still hit pretty damn hard with it. And it wouldn't be all that pleasant for somebody to get punched when I'm holding my fist like that. Now, once again, am I advocating this? Am I saying this is how you should punch? Of course not. That was the whole point of this video, is that there are so many myths. There's a lot of dogmatic information out there where people claim, well, this is how the only way to make a correct fist, a proper fist, and this is it. And then they show the very first one that I showed you. And my point with this video is this, well, sure, I mean, that works, but that isn't the only thing that works. And there is a lot more nuance to how you can make a fist and how you can strike than if you only listen to that dogmatic advice. So the whole trick is then figuring out, well, what kind of fist works for me and what kind of fist works for this type of technique that I'm using right now. And that is a whole separate discussion that is way beyond the scope of this video, but I just wanted to make it so that you understand that many times it's a lot more complex than you might think. It isn't all that simple than as it may seem, or it isn't always that dogmatic when compared with what some instructors would like you to believe. That was the point of the video. Now, if you want to have more about this, I'm going in a lot more detail on my Patreon page, and in the description of this video, you will find a direct link to that post. You can join us for as low as $1 a month, and then you can see not just that discussion and all the information that comes with it, but also a host of other things that I have there as well. That's it. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.